If you look at the most popular adult games of the past 6 years, all of them started as new Patreons. When we look back at the top new Patreons of the previous 3 years, all of them are doing very well. Fresh Women even ended up being the Game of the Year last year. And while there is no guarantee that a top new Patreon will be a hit, I have really high hopes for this year's top new titles. Out of the over 1,200 new adult games Patreons, here are the top 10. As always, all links to each of these games can be found for free on my Patreon. At number 10, we have Horny Recruiter. I first talked about this Papers, Please meets the Casting Couch game back in April. Since then, there has been an overhaul in the UI, but the biggest draw is still the huge number of optional flavors that you can explore. While it is unfair to jump to conclusions about any of the games on this list, given how early they are in development, I am worried about whether we'll actually see any type of story or narrative emerge in this game. Why? Because I've played many of the other games that this developer Strange Girl has made and none of them seem to have much of a plot. But then we don't always need a plot in order to have fun, especially when there are animations with sound. Horny Recruiter is available for PC, Mac, Linux, and Android on Patreon and itch.io, where you can also play on the web browser. Next up at number 9, we have Steps of Debauchery. You play as a female protagonist who moves from a small town to the big city with her husband. So basically a corruption game. Currently the pacing is more of a slow burn, so it's not really clear what kind of trajectory of corruption we'll end up with here. However, there are animations with sound, and the characters look good. The developer has stated that the number of branches and options is going to be influenced by the amount of funding that the game brings in. While that may seem disappointing, I appreciate the candor. I would rather see a more compact, completed game than an overly ambitious project that could take decades to deliver what they promised. So if you enjoy games like Fleeting Iris and Lily of the Valley, then you definitely want to check out Steps of Debauchery, available for PC, Mac, and Linux on Patreon and itch.io. I can't tell you how amusing it is for me that number 8 on our list is a 4 game. In the Minimum Project, our main character is shrunken in an experiment and now has to avoid being devoured by giant women. What can I say? Macrophilia is big right now. This is a story-focused adventure that really explores the humiliation and masochism flavors. There are a ton of animations in some of the scenes in-game, as well as in the sexual interactions, which also have sound. The Minimum Project is available for PC on their Patreon. So our next 2 games have 0 content that I can show on YouTube. Number 7, Oh My Waifu, and number 6, Pocket Sweeties, are both mobile games that focus on sexual animations of popular comic, anime, and video game characters. What's the difference between comics and anime? I have no idea. Ask Scott Pilgrim. The bigger question I have is, are either of these actually games? I'll leave that decision up to you all in the comments. Oh My Waifu is available for PC, Mac, and Android on Patreon and itch.io, and Pocket Sweeties is available for PC and Android on their Patreon with a demo version on itch.io. At number 5, we have Arin, and there is no question that this is definitely a game. Arin is an open-world fantasy RPG with a female protagonist from the same developer as Third Crisis, and so far it looks great. Check out my full review later this week. Arin is available for PC on Patreon and itch.io. I'm having a lot of trouble figuring out how to describe many of the characters in our 4th ranked game, StarPerere. It is a sci-fi male protagonist visual novel with a focus on femdom. It just so happens that most of the women in the game are large and have penises. Are they futanari? No. Are they trans characters then? No. How do we classify all of these thick women then? I have no idea. Damn it, Jim! I'm a doctor, not a xenobiologist. StarPerere is available for PC, Mac, and Linux on their Patreon. At number 3, we have Vessel Tactics. This is basically Fire Emblem with Vor. Seriously, we have 2 Vor games in the top 10 this year. I guess there are just a lot of people hungry for this flavor. Vessel Tactics is available for PC on Patreon and itch.io. Since its release in late 2020, Genshin Impact has grossed over $4 billion. So it only makes sense that we would have mods for PC, like number 2's Lewd Lad. While this creator does make mods for other games, their growth this year was fueled by their various high-quality customizations of both male and female Genshin characters. Lewd Lad's mods can be found for PC on their Patreon. And at number 1, we have Isekai Awakening. You have been summoned to another world to defeat an evil king. How, you ask? By developing your sexual skills and powers to dominate every woman around you. Look, no one really expects isekai plots to make any sense at this point. If you ask me, I blame Escaflowne. Still early in development, Isekai Awakening has fun minigames, unlockable sexual positions and animations with sound, and exactly the kind of storyline that you should expect from an isekai adventure. All in all, this has the potential to be a very successful game, and I'm really curious to see what this looks like in another year. Isekai Awakening is available for PC, Mac, and Android on both Patreon and itch.io. There you have it. Is Patreon still the best place for a new adult game developer to get their start? Steam is where you can make the most money, but Patreon is still probably the best environment for a brand new developer. The competition is definitely more fierce now than a few years ago, but the right idea with the right flavors can still make a new developer into a millionaire. Let me know what your favorite new Patreon of 2023 was. Some of you who watched the top new Patreon video earlier this year may be asking, what about that Sword Art Online parody with NTR? That game could have been the top this year, and what happened was probably one of the most interesting stories of 2023 in our industry. It involves drama, arrests, the Chinese government, and the developer deleting their Patreon entirely. But I'll be sharing more of that tale in a month. Until next time, no shaming, just gaming. Thanks to all this month's support on Patreon. I wouldn't have been able to do this without you all.